Find the equation of the tangent line for y equals x times 2x plus 1 cubed at the point x equals to -1. In order to find the equation of the tangent line, we need the x and y coordinates of the point. Right now we have only the x coordinate. So the first thing we're going to do is find the corresponding y coordinate by plugging that x coordinate into the function, which is y equals to x times 2x plus 1 quantity cubed. So y coordinate will be found by plugging in a -1 into that y expression. So I will have -1 times 2 times -1 plus 1 quantity cubed. So I have -1 times, 2 times -1 is a -2 plus 1 cubed. I will have -1 times -1 cubed. Well, -1 cubed is -1 times -1, +1 times 1 more -1, it's -1. And we have -1 times -1, which comes out to +1. There's my corresponding y coordinate. So we have the point -1, +1. The next thing we need is the slope of the tangent line, and that's the derivative. So now we're going to evaluate the derivative. The derivative, y prime, or dy dx, will be found, well, in this case we have x times the quantity 2x plus 1 cubed, so we're going to have to make use of the product rule. The derivative of the first, derivative of x, is a 1. Leave the second alone, plus the first left alone, x, and then the derivative of the second, which is a power rule. We bring down the power, we leave the inside alone, we subtract 1 from the power, and then we multiply by the derivative of the inside to complete the chain rule. So our first term, 1 times anything, is that same thing. And our second term, I'll just move the 2 out with the 3. Everything's multiplied. So I will have a 6. And there's an x out there. And I have 2x plus 1 quantity squared. So there's our derivative. It's possible to factor this, but there's no need to work it much further because we're going to be plugging the x coordinate into this anyway to find the slope. The slope is found by plugging in the x coordinate to our derivative, so the slope will be y prime of -1. And you just simplify the derivative enough until it's possible to plug in the x coordinate. So we have 2 times -1 plus 1 quantity cubed plus 6 times -1 times 2 times -1 plus 1 quantity squared. 2 times -1 is a -2 plus 1 cubed plus 6 times a -1 is a -6. Again, 2 times -1 is a -2 plus 1, and this is squared. -2 plus 1 is a -1, and then cubed. And then plus and minus will just be a -6, and then we have a -2 plus 1 again, and then squared. So we have a -1 cubed, which will be a -1. And I have a -6 times a -1 squared, which is a +1. So -1 minus 6 comes out to -7. It looks like we have a slope of -7. So now that we have the slope and the point, we can set up the equation of the tangent line using the point-slope formula. It is going to be y minus the y coordinate of the point, that's up here. That's a 1, y minus a 1 equals the slope, we just found that, -7. And then x minus the x coordinate of the point, well that's a -1, so x minus a -1. This is the point-slope formula. We're going to want to put it into slope-intercept form by solving for y. So we will do that by, first off, in here, minus a -1 is the same as +1. Next step, distribute the -7 in. That'll be -7x minus 7. And then let's add 1 to both sides. and we have negative 7x plus 6. There's the equation of the tangent line to the function at that point, x equals negative 1. Y equals negative 7x plus 6.